Welcome, everybody. This is Ryan back with you here, and I have a very, very special guest with me today. I got Morgan Ingram. Morgan is widely regarded as B2B revenue expert. He's the CEO of AMP Creative, and he helps B2B leaders turn their expertise into a predictable pipeline. And so he's been a 4-time LinkedIn top sales voice. On top of it, too, sought after consultant who trained teams at HubSpot, Google, and he's doing a ton right now with LinkedIn video and also some tweaks in there with integrating AI into that. Really excited to talk to you today, Morgan. Welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was great getting a chance to meet you at the go-to-market event. I think it was like 3 months ago now, man. It seems like it was a long time ago.
It definitely feels like it was like 7 months ago. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So walk us through, dude, like what's the core thing you're focused on right now? Because like, I love what you're doing. I love the Christmas sweater ensemble.
Well, that was fun.
Consistently that ugly sweater during the holiday season. So walk us through what you're doing, who you're helping, and then, like the outcomes that you're.
Yeah. So really, I'm always focused on where the puck is going. I mean, where I believe the puck is going right now is it's not just about sales only or just content only. It's a combination of content and sales. And so that's what we're focusing on right now. And what we know is that more B2B leaders, founders want to create content on LinkedIn, and we're supporting that. So we help B2B leaders create content on LinkedIn, primarily focuses video with the vertical video feed. We're helping them get out there. And then ultimately leads to sales conversations through LinkedIn playbooks and plays that we have as well. So we're really hyper focusing on LinkedIn. We'll talk about other platforms that I believe are going to be on the rise. But right now, our main focus is LinkedIn.
Okay. Love that, man. So yeah, I think like there's a ton we could talk about on LinkedIn specifically, and a lot of the listeners are going to be really geared in that. I think though, like with you and the fact that you're like me, man, you're looking at the future. You're trying to see like, hey, where the hell are things going? I don't want to go where things have been. Let's go where things are going. And you can see that because the algorithm's been a little stingy to start the new year, if you will. It's changed again on LinkedIn or whatever. But like, what's your process, man, when it comes to video? How are you approaching it? Because I think that's the best way for people to learn and understand is to learn from the masters that are doing it and what they do themselves.
So you just said something extremely important, is understanding and learning from the masters. So at the end of the day, the way I look at it is that like overall algorithms will change, but someone's always going to figure it out, right? And so I just will find the people who are figuring it out or have done it before. There have been times where I figured it out, or there's always trying to figure it out, right? So the first thing that you need to do before you figure out the algorithm, because it's easy to blame that, is to look at how are you showing up and control what you can control. So what is your framework for your video? Just because the LinkedIn algorithm actually is going to favor videos moving forward, because it's very clear they keep updating the products, which, by the way, side note, anytime that you're on a platform and there's a new product update or a new feature and they're updating it a lot, that means they want you to use it and they'll favor you more, just as context. So the way you want to look at doing videos is it's a 4-step framework. And everyone has their frameworks, but every video I've seen is just breaks down like this. The first part is the hook. What are you saying that's going to draw people in? So how are you showcasing something? Do you have a stat? Have you done something impressive? You really need to think about like, why would someone create or watch the video? Most people fail. I've done this myself, is they'll come on a video and they'll be like, hey, my name is Morgan. I'm at this company and nobody cares. It's out, right? So you got to have something where it's like, that's going to draw me in as the viewer, listener, etc. Then the second thing is, I got this from Alex Ramosi, and I believe it to be true, is the promise. So once you've hooked people in, now what's the promise that I've stayed here? How are you going to keep me here, right? So it's like, you've hooked me, I'm here, I'm at this location, I'm watching you now. What is the promise that's going to keep me watching this now? Then the third thing is, what's the plan for you to actually make sure that the promise makes sense? And he talks about that in his videos. He talks about there's a promise and then there's a plan. So what's the plan that you're going to tell me based on the promise that you set? And then the third part, or the fourth part of it, is where are you driving people towards, right? What do you want them to do now they have this information? Okay, you gave them the promise. You've given them now the plan to execute on whatever that is. And now what do you want them to do next? Do you want them to download something? Do you want them to click something? Do you want them just to comment? Depends on what you're trying to aspire for. But that's actually how you need to look at every single video. And then if you do that, you're good. Second thing I would say is make sure that when you do your videos, you are looking at the camera when you do them. So like, as I'm doing this right now, like I'm looking at my camera, it will allow you to not look at yourself, because when you look at yourself, you get subconscious and then you overthink it and then you end up being like really weird on camera. So you really want to look at the camera when you do it. That's just a very small piece of advice, but that's actually very important. And I'd say on the LinkedIn algo right now, the things that you want to do is you want to keep your videos around 30 to 60 seconds. I probably would say 30 to 45 seconds. If you do a longer video, you can do a screen share video, which I've done those before, like, hey, walking people through a process, but you want to keep it pretty compact. So those are things you want to look at, and that's what I'm seeing.
Okay. Love that, man. So what do you see for the longer form, like duration is kind of a sweet spot, like a share screen video?
2 to 4 minutes is what I've seen. I've done, and I've tested it. I've done to the extreme. I've done a 10-minute video where like I just went deep and I broke down something. And I actually had people engage on that, which was very intriguing to see, but only certain viewers are going to see that. And I know that, which is fine. And then 2 to 4 minutes is more of like, hey, like I'm walking through something, here's what's going on, etc. That's where that sweet spot really is. You go over that, people start tuning out, is what I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, I had one hit, like, this was the best video I did. This was late last year. I had like 900,000 views on it.
Yeah.
And it was
nice.
like 8 minutes or 9 minutes. It was a longer one in that, but it was an explainer too. It was like, hey, this is how it works. This is what we do. Okay. So walk us through, like, love that you broke down the framework, man. And I've heard that one broken down before. So I love that. Can you give specific examples for each one? Like, what's a hook you would use? What's a promise you would use? Like, what's the plan? And then, like, obviously the call to action in terms of that. And it doesn't need to be perfect, just like hypothetical example.
Yeah, we'll just use LinkedIn so we talk about it. I might be like, LinkedIn has just acquired 1 billion users on the platform. And right now, if you're not on this platform, you're completely missing out. Yes, you can post on X. Yes, you can post on Snapchat, but this is the place to be. But some of you may be wondering, why would I be on that platform? Isn't it for resumes? Well, that's where you're completely wrong. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how I've been able to close $10 million in deals. And here are the 3-step process that I have. And then I go into that 3 steps.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So that was the hook. And then the promise was the
promise was there. Yeah. It was like, now I'm going to show you the 3 steps, or now I have this one question you need to pay attention to. Cause now you have to promise them to set it up to be like, what are you about to say? Cause if you just say, all right, I'm just going to talk about randomness, then they're not going to know what the next sequential order is. You have to be like, here are the next 3 things, or here's this one thing you got to pay attention to, or like, here's 2 things that come to mind. And then now they know, okay, whatever it may be.
Okay. Yeah. And then what's your like ratio of call to action at the end of the video? Like, do you try and use the 1 to 4? So like, 3 are a give and 1 is actually cash it in, or like, how do you kind of look at it?
Yeah. So I would say your call to action is still this is a give video. Cause if I just say, hey, comment below if you need, like, trying to think of a good example of that. It'd be like, hey, comment below if you actually are, going to start using LinkedIn or something like that. That would be like an example. So I'm not really asking them for really anything. I'm just asking for just more engagement, which is fine. But I typically do, to your point, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. I'm going to come in and say, hey, if you want to learn more about how we do this, like DM me, or hey, if you learn more how to do this, like check out our website here and you can go do this call to actions. But you won't be able to take like an action. So you would typically tell them to DM you or whatever that may be. So that's just something else additional to pay attention to as well.
Yeah. So how do you do it, right? I heard you walk us through your process and like how you look at your pillar content and then how you break that down for vertical videos on LinkedIn. And I thought it was a really cool process you talked to me about in the pre-show.
Okay. So the way that I do this is first of all, I have like 3 revenue pillars, what I call them. The reason I call them revenue pillars is that if you just say, I think you could trick yourself. You just say, hey, this is just a content pillar. Then what ends up happening if you do that is that you just like, I just need to create content. But the goal of creating content is to get revenue. It's not just to just to hang out, right? And so once I have these 3 revenue pillars, then I map those pillars towards actually creating YouTube videos. So that's my main focus right now, is actually getting deeper into YouTube, because this is actually how I started as an SDR. I did YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time, and that's how I was able to be successful. So I'm just going back to what already worked. So I take the 3 pillars that I have, and there are topics within those pillars. I then look on YouTube to see what's performing well, what's going on, what's happening. And then once I say, okay, these videos are performing well, that means that holistically, this is what people are searching for, right? Because Google owns YouTube, and YouTube is the second most search engine, right? So that means that this is something that is important to this type of avatar. So that means that if I do this video very well, this content, it should be also applicable to people on all the other platforms across the board. And so the way I do that is I spend a ton of time on YouTube on thumbnails, titles, optimization, watching videos, because then when I have an understanding of what I'm looking for, then it's very easy for me to then create the content for the other platforms, because I've spent so much upfront work on YouTube. And so that's the way I'm able to distill it down and go from there, and then figure out what topics work and all those different things.
So when you say that, like, how much time? You said you spent a ton of time for a video. Like, how much time do you spend researching?
The amount of time that I'm going to be honest, like, probably, it's not applicable for everyone. It's just because, like, this is the mode I'm in. Because I actually find the most satisfaction to this right now. I probably am spending 2 to 4 hours a day, like, on YouTube currently right now. That will probably change over time, but I'm trying to think of how much work I'm putting into right now. Probably 2 to 4. And on certain days, like, it definitely is 4. And this is literally just doing research, looking through it, like studying how this actually works, and then coming up with these ideas and knowing, like, what is going to work and what's not. That's what I'm currently doing.
Okay. Gotcha. And then what tools do you use? Like, any great tools you use along those lines in terms of SEO or other things for
Q to see what keywords work, because I want to figure out what do I need to put in the video so it actually works. There's another one called Keywords Everywhere. So that basically lets you see the keywords like basically on Google as well. So you can see, like, okay, if I search this keyword, how many people are looking per month? Like, you could do that too. So that's another thing that I do. That's been really helpful. And then those are the main, I'm trying to think what else. And then I use Perplexity and Claude. I use AI on the back end to help me with, if I did this title this way, is this compelling? Is this a hook? Does this actually work, etc.? And that has been a really good duo as well, because then I could find channels faster.
Walk us through that. I love Perplexity, and I love Claude, actually, for different
I
reasons.
found Perplexity like 3 weeks ago, and I feel so dumb. I was like, how did I not find this earlier?
It's funny. I just talked to someone yesterday. It was like a CRO or VP of sales, same thing. I'm like, have you heard of Perplexity? He's like, no. I'm like, dude, replace Google, use this instead. It's like 10
so
times
much
easier.
Better.
There's no garbage on there. Like, you're not getting pounded with ads. How do you use Perplexity and Claude together? Because I think that's a great example of use cases
for this use case in video.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because that's a rabbit hole on just like, how do I use it in general?
No, this use case, yeah.
For video. So, for example, for anyone that's out there, if you're looking to make content for IT, HR, sales, etc., you're like, I don't know who's out there. Well, Perplexity can literally find these people. It scrapes social websites, etc. And so what I'm doing is saying, who are the top 20 YouTubers for LinkedIn content creation? Who are the top YouTubers for LinkedIn sales strategies? Who are the top YouTubers for X, right? And then it'll go through everything. Then the next step I take is, who are the top YouTubers that have the best thumbnails for entertainment? Because they typically, entertainment, so there's just for context, there's 2 different types of content on YouTube, educational and entertainment. Entertainment typically has the better thumbnails. So I say, what are the top thumbnails that the entertainment people are using? So like the Mr. Beast, like all those different people, I'm just kind of seeing what they're doing. And so then it just spits out all this stuff, right? So now I have modules, I have missions that I can give my team to say, when you edit a video, I want to edit it like this. When you want to do a thumbnail, it needs to look like this, right? Because you got to give them the direction on what to do, and then they can do their thing. So that's how I use Perplexity is to find all the channels so I don't have to do a crazy amount of manual search. And then I put in topics on what videos are highest performing in there. So then at least I could start there. And obviously you could just go to YouTube and do that. But Perplexity at least gives me a start on like, where am I going and what's happening? So I could do that research ahead of time. Claude, what I'm doing there is it's rewriting. It helps me rewrite and format my titles and my intros. So basically, I've taken the intros of people that I know that do really well, and then I emulate what made that good, and then basically I made it into my own intros based on what I'm trying to accomplish.
Nice.
Yeah.
So basically targeting for Perplexity is what I hear you saying, like batch research,
Correct.
which as a pro tip too, have you used Google Gemini deep research at all?
I have not. Someone mentioned that to me on X that I need to get on, and I was like, what is this? I'm all for it though.
So here's the weird thing. This is a pro tip for everybody because this just came out a few weeks ago as of the time of this recording. So basically you got to have a personal account because it won't work in the workspace, enterprise account, and it's experimental. So it's freaking wild, man. I researched an entire, I had a client that was new to a role, and he's like, hey man, I'm really curious on the pricing model for SaaS construction tech or SaaS, say pharmaceutical tech or something along those lines, right? And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, one of the things you could do is I could pull up pricing comparisons of all the vendors in this space, identify their pricing models, and then have a report on it. And so it basically scraped and went through 180 websites in 3 minutes, and then gave me a report on the outcome. So I imagine for YouTube, you could say,
that's pretty good.
And I haven't tried this because sometimes it gets a little sensitive, but it's made by Google. Wonder if it could do what are the top 10, YouTube content creators 24? What are their top 10 videos? And you just have to describe what you want in the report and it'll give you that. So it's pretty sick, man.
What is it called? I'm going to put this down because this is going to be.
You have to have a paid Gemini license, Google Gemini.
Okay.
It's got to be on the personal license. And then there'll be an option where you could change the model, and it's Google 1.5 deep research.
Okay. That's going to be my next thing because that's exactly it. Because again, if we go back to what we're talking about, algorithms, et cetera, what's going on, someone's figured it out, right? So if you can go find out what the top videos are and break it down to a science, then it's there. Everyone has a framework in the science. Now, the reason that sets people apart is the art of how they do it, which that's a whole different skill set you would have to go learn. But the science is there. It's just, how do we break that down, right? And that's the key here.
Well, unfortunately, we're up on time, man. Where can people find you? Where can they find more about you? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, if you want to find more about what we're doing and how we're helping executives and also sales leaders with all this stuff I just mentioned, videos, LinkedIn, I am creative.io. I'm also on YouTube, obviously, as we talked about this. And yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn as well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on this show, and we're going to have you back for part 2 coming up in a little bit. So thanks for being on, man, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
All right, see y'all.
Cheers.